We're back with former GameStop employee horror story time. This follower submission is from somebody who worked there for 21 years. And this is the bestie, put your food down, say to take this emotional support. SpongeBob, if you know why this was so important for me to get. But take him, trust me, you're going to need him for emotional support. He even vibrates for emotional support because, this is the worst employee they ever worked with in 21 years. So while this follower was the store manager whenever their store got shut down and they retired, this happened when they were a key holder many years before. They were only a few years in, and they said they never saw something as bad afterwards. So in 2008, 2009 timeframe, they had this boss that was just, the store manager at the time, was just absolute crap, and he would constantly hire like other incel 4chan using stereotypical, mom's basement fuckers. At the time, he was the only person in that entire store that did not stink. Like, he was the only one that properly showered, and he would literally get made fun of by his other fellow employees for showering and taking care of himself, to be like, oh, you're doing too much. He said it got so bad that before he would go into work and throughout the whole day, he would put a little bit of oil, like perfume oil, right under here and on here. And especially, like, if he didn't have the oil, he would put Vicks Vapor Rub because it smelled so bad. His boss also refused to hire women, like would not hire a single woman. And if a woman came into the store, they would absolutely treat them like shit. He was the only one that would even serve them half the time. Like, he said his boss most of the time would not even, and like, you wouldn't get in trouble for ignoring them either. That he had multiple women who would complain about how crappy it was, to the point where, like, you rarely saw a woman go into this store, this particular location, because it was well known in that area for their bullshit. And even though they were getting complaints, the boss really would not do anything about it because he felt the same way. This poor follower thinks it cannot possibly get any worse until one day the boss hires his cousin, like the boss's cousin, not the follower's cousin, but the boss hires his cousin, who is freshly 18 and becomes an absolute nightmare. Spoiler alert, it gets so bad he gets arrested. So they end up being put on the same shift a lot because of their availability. And it wasn't like, oh, this guy was going to school or something. He had already dropped out, but he was so obsessed with certain games, he would only work day shift because he wanted to be on night shift to be on those games. And he wore a trench coat. He wore the same trench coat every single day that he worked there. And the follower said, oh my gosh, it smelled so bad. And it just got worse over time. And no matter what dirt or nastiness he got on this trench coat, he would still wear it. And part of it was he was super obsessed with the Columbine. Eric and Dylan that did Columbine. He was obsessed with them. And that is why he was obsessed with wearing this trench coat. And he would brag to everybody about how it was the same, like, brand or style or whatever that they wore during their school. And for the first month, it was the typical stuff he had seen with other employees, other than, like, him constantly talking about Columbine and, like, talking about how all females needed to be eradicated and stuff, and this guy just being crazy and refusing to work with female customers, the stink, all of that stuff. He said for the first month, it was just all that stuff that he was used to dealing with, but just a little bit turned up. But it gets worse whenever they're in a mall and there's an AT&T next to them, and a girl he went to high school with starts working there, a girl that he apparently liked. And he becomes obsessive. Like, anytime he sees that she is working, this guy knows. The follower said it was so bad that if he walked in and he walked past AT&T and saw that she was working, he knew his whole day was going to be filled with this guy going on and on about this chick and, like, how she was, some evil Stacy and blah, 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 and all the things that he wanted to do as revenge. And he would regularly talk about how he wanted to, like, go. If you've heard the song ICP, their In My Room song, where the guy is out of his mind and, like, takes the lives of the whole family and stuff. Yeah, he would play that song and would talk about how in detail all the things he wanted to do and how he wanted to grape her little sister in front of her. So this guy is like, okay, this is going too far. Like, it's just getting worse every shift that I work with him, and he's just getting more graphic and in detail. And he tells the boss about it. And the boss has a little conversation with his cousin, does no real trouble, and he continues to work down. Now this guy has a vendetta against the follower who is working with him and is just being pissy and isn't even talking to him. So he constantly would go into the back room and stay in there for a while, because if you don't know, at GameStop, most of them have, like, a little back room. Depending on where you work, they'll also sometimes have a bathroom. And this is back when, like, the first iPhone had just came out. It hadn't been out that long. Finally, after working a few months there, he was able to afford to go get it. So this, crazy guy goes and gets, we're going to call him Trench Coat Man. Trench Coat Man goes and gets the first iPhone. And now he's spending even more time in the back room. It's getting to the point where the follower's like, I'm basically working by myself. Why are we even here? So he goes in and he decides he's just going to go back there. And he just gets his keys, goes back there, goes to see what's going on. And of course, this guy is jerking it but what makes it worse is, do you know what he's jerking it to? Pictures of that girl, the girl he was obsessed with. But they're not pictures like off of her Facebook or her MySpace or something. They're pictures that were clearly taken like from the parking lot and stuff. Like the guy, he ends up grabbing the phone from the guy and he's looking, and yeah, they're pictures that he had been taking sneakingly of this woman while she's like working at AT&T or when she was out in the parking lot and stuff. Very clearly without her consent, without her knowing. So he calls the boss once again and is like, hey, now it's got to he is jerking it in the back room to pictures and like clearly stalking this girl. You know what the manager does? He writes him up. He does a little write-up. Nothing else. He doesn't get fired, nothing. Just a little write-up and another talking to. Well, it's quiet for a couple weeks. I mean, not quiet, but after he got wrote up, there's this whole situation where he's doing his same BS of not showering. He's still wearing that same trench coat that he's been wearing for months at this point and not washing. Stinks. He's complaining to other employees about this girl, and for some reason the other employees are like, oh yeah, it's so crazy. Like they're like agreeing with him, and it's just, he thinks, okay, I'm clearly stuck in this situation. Like, what do I do? But they don't catch him jerking it anymore, right? So they think that it's gone. But then one day the guy shows up and he is just in a really, really good mood, right? But he's not just in a good mood. This guy is literally like going around stalking everything, volunteering to stalk stuff. He is super excited. He's going like all out. And of course, the followers starting to get suspicious, right? Followers starting to get suspicious. This is weird. So the guy actually got off like an hour before the follower because the follower was like a key holder at the time and was closing. So after he gets off, he's like looking around. He's like, something is up. And he goes into the back room where the guy had been stalking because they did implement a rule at that point with him. Like he had to have the door slightly propped open whenever he was in the back. That was like the only thing they did about the jerking it thing, other than the little write-up. And he starts looking through the stock, making sure everything's, he hasn't stolen anything or something. He's just like, it's really weird. This guy's in a really good mood. And he finds a notebook. He finds the guy had left his notebook. And there are some insanely disturbing entries into this notebook. Like, it is basically a manifesto. So, calls manager again and is like, hey, your cousin literally has a manifesto. Manager's like, stay there. I'm going to come down there. He gets the manifesto and then leaves. Like, he doesn't do anything about it. And the guy's like, okay, what is going on? Well, he comes to work the next day and the cops are there. And he's thinking it's about the manifesto. No, it was because that day he had taken Polaroids of his Natalia and had been slipping it into like games and stuff, like the game boxes underneath because like whenever you work at GameStop, you take the disc out, like the disc goes into the drawer. He had been slipping it underneath the like if they had a booklet in it, he was slipping it underneath the booklet so people weren't discovering it till they got home. And apparently one of the customers who had gotten it had called the cops. So you're thinking, oh, he's going to turn in the manifesto, right? The owner got mad because he then turned it, like the cops are there and they talk to him for a second. They're like, hey, do you know anything about this? And he's like, oh, I just know about like the manifesto book last night. And they're like, what? Yeah, the manager had tried to hide it. So follower does not know exactly how it got to this point, but the cops end up like raiding this dude's house and they end up finding they found so many more notebooks with like full detailed manifestos. They found pictures of him stalking multiple girls he went to high school with and their younger siblings. They found like secret camera kind of stuff, like where they don't even know, the follower says he doesn't know how he managed to get a hold of it, but like stuff through their windows and stuff of them, unclothed without them knowing. Yeah, dude ended up going to jail. Corporate luckily got involved because the manager was telling this guy, oh, I'm going to fire you for snitching on my cousin about the book and stuff. Luckily, corporate got involved because the cops were involved. Manager did get fired, but that's all he got. He never got charged, which I feel like he should have gotten charged with tampering with evidence. Because the way he immediately, as soon as he heard that book, came over and got it was just too familiar. You know what I mean? He seemed too familiar with knowing, like, how to process and to trying to hurry up and get rid of it. Like, he knew about it. I feel like that guy should have got charged. But yeah, that was the worst employee that he ever had to deal with in the 21 years. He said he's dealt with all kinds of nasty incels and stuff like that before, but he has never dealt with somebody that bad. Oh, and to that manager that was covering up and helped him, I hope you're rotting in a hole somewhere.